a second here. So just wanted to thank everybody for joining in today for the listening session focused on rangelands for Grant County. We've got a few more people on the phone today than yesterday, and some folks that are also in on the video. So just appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to do that. So part of what we want to kind of accomplish today is just kind of, if everybody can, if you're on the video, if you could send in the chat just your name, your organization or affiliate, email and phone number. That gives us a way of kind of tracking who's participating in these events. And then I will add your names to the list for next year. So if anybody's interested in participating next year, you'd get an email from us. So I do have a couple of people on the phone. Shannon, do you want to kick it off real quick?
Yep, my name's Shannon Roth. We have property near Ritter. We're landowners, and we farm up at Hermiston. Is that it?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. Thank you. So I've got so just kind of, I'll just run through the list of everybody that's on so far right now. I'm Aaron Roth, the District Conservationist in Grant County. Hannah Mears is a soil con with Nrcs here in John Day. Looks like Jim Dovenberg is in attendance today. Jack Southworth, Amy Steiner with the South Fork John Day Watershed Council. She's going to talk a little bit here in a few minutes. We got Carter Crouch with Burns Paiute Tribe, Genevieve Perdue with Blue Mountain Land Trust, Kurt Spencer, Matt Winnick with Grant Soil and Water Conservation District, Nicole Lexon with Confederated Tribes of the Warm Springs, Stephanie Muart with NRCS here in John Day, and Teresa Perkins with NRCS here in John Day. So that's kind of everybody that's on the call, either through video or over the phone. So just kind of have the brief meeting agenda on the screen at the moment. I'm gonna maybe provide a little bit of an update with NRCS staffing and some of the changes that we've had in the last year or so. Emma Gabriel, the new FSA County Executive Director, I think was going to try to join us, but if not, we'll kind of cover a little bit of information about their programs and have her contact information listed. And then really kind of the purpose of today is to review the county priority resource concerns, talk a little bit about the funding opportunities that we have in 2021, and then really get some input from the producers and partners on the phone on, are we working in the right direction? You know, are there emerging technologies that we need to look into, or are there areas that we're not working in and that we need to kind of focus on in the future? So this is kind of really the meeting purpose today, and I know it's a little bit different than our normal face-to-face meeting, but the first 4 items on this list I kind of covered in a recorded county overview that has been posted on our website. So if folks are interested in learning more about that, that would be a place that they could go in and watch that YouTube video. But like I was talking a little bit earlier, we're just here to kind of check in, see how we're doing, what can we do better, and then gather input from you guys on kind of the range related topics. This is just a quick visual. If you go on to the Oregon NRCS webpage, we have a local work group meeting website, and every local work group meeting across the state is listed there. So if ever interested in attending one in another county or want information on this one, this would be a location to go. So here's just kind of the list of the folks that work with us in the field office. So everybody probably knows who I am and who Hannah is. Stephanie started here on January 4th, and we're excited to have her on board and have a little bit more capacity in the office. And then Teresa Perkins has been the CREP technician the last couple of years and has worked for the district before that, but she's going to bring a lot of great skills and background to with NRCS as well. So we're excited to have her on board. We also work closely with ODF and Matthew Brown and Austin Reimer, and we'll kind of talk with those guys tomorrow on the listening session that's more focused on the forestry work. I talked to Kyle Sullivan this morning. We're going to be working on getting the CREP technician position advertised here in the next few weeks or so, and I hope to have that position refilled here in the next couple of months. And then we will also be adding a third soil conservationist here in the office with NRCS, and working on looking at some resumes and transcripts currently. So I don't see that Emma has joined us, but basically at the beginning of the year, Harney County have kind of gone back to more of its historical alignment, where there's one CED, County Executive Director, that covers both of those counties. For a while, Baker and Grant were together, but this move kind of transitions that back to kind of how it was set up historically. So Emma Gabriel is the FSA Executive Director down there in Hines, and she'll be covering the office here in John Day. She usually comes over on Tuesdays, and I would get a hold of her to set up an appointment if you have anything FSA related. And they also have been doing interviews this week to hire the program technician that will be housed here in the office in John Day. But these are just some of the programs that she has and kind of some of the deadlines coming up for those. So I guess if you have any questions on that, I would feel free to send her an email or give her a call. So one of the things that we've kind of done over the last 10 or 15 years is kind of develop the county priority resource concerns. And these are kind of the 5 items that we've kind of run with since then. And we just really kind of want to check in and make sure we're still on the right page. And you know, are there other things that we're missing off of this list, or is this kind of the big resource concerns for the county? So the first one, I think, that everybody's probably aware of is the invasive species, whether we're talking about juniper, annual grasses, or some of the herbaceous weeds. Forestry health could be the bark beetle or all the bugs that are killing the trees, or the wildfire risk with having that much fuel on the landscape. Grazing management, anything from stock water developments, cross fencing on private lands, to prescribed grazing plans to help the vegetation out has been identified. And water quality and quantity. So the session that we talked about yesterday on croplands, that was kind of one of the big resource concerns there, where we're installing some more efficient irrigation systems in the area. And then lastly, number 5 is kind of the easement component to that, is keeping working lands working basically, and trying to reduce some of the threats of subdivision. So this basically are the funding opportunities and kind of the map of the different locations where we have funding available for 2021. we kind of have a couple different pots of funding. The EQIP, Environmental Quality Incentives Program, are kind of focused on kind of the Ritter area up on the north end of the county. So we're doing juniper work up there, aspen restoration, as well as pre-commercial thinnings kind of in the red zone. And then we have the Kaler multi-county upland improvement projects kind of over in the Kimberly Monument Country. And again, kind of focused on those upland practices, juniper, aspen, some stock water, spring developments, pipelines, some of those things. The RCPP, or the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, basically is a funding opportunity that partners that we work with put in a proposal and request Nrcs funding, and then basically those partners also have to come up with a one-to-one match for those funds. And basically by having that partnership, we're able to leverage additional funds in the county. And currently we've got 2 active RCPP projects, and we've had a third one that we're kind of working on finishing up. So we've been very, very successful in the county in getting those. There's some counties that don't have any RCPP projects at all. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about the Upper John Day River Flow and Protection Project. That one's kind of focused on those irrigation efficiency improvements, so piping the ditches, improving the on-farm, and then there's also some easement funding available and associated with that. The other one is the South Fork John Day Watershed Council, and we've got Amy Steiner as a participant on that today, and I'm going to have her talk a little bit more about what's available for that particular project. So Amy, if you want to unmute and hop in, we would appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you. Everybody else, can we hear Amy? Maybe give a thumbs up.
I can't.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe if I just keep going, it'll pick up. So I'm Amy Steiner. I'm with the South Fork John Day Watershed Council. We're a nonprofit that does voluntary restoration with different landowners throughout the South Fork watershed. Our service area runs from Harney County boundary up by IZ all the way down to Dayville, and then we go up and down the upper main stem of the John Day to about Moon Creek, towards the Mount Vernon side, and then Rock Creek just through Picture Gorge. So that's our service area. We applied for the RCPP funding back in 2019, I think, and we were awarded in 2020, and that's open for 5 years. So we're just getting past the agreement stage and everything and starting to get landowners signed up. And so we've kind of divided it into 2 chunks that we can focus on. So the first chunk for signups in 2021 is going to be the upper 2 watersheds. So from our Harney County border through IZ to the IZ Falls. You can see it on the map Aaron has pulled up there. It's the pink hashed area. And then those signups are going to be a deadline of April 16th this year. So just a little over a month away. And then the lower watershed, the purple on there, will be focusing on getting landowners signed up in hopefully the fall of 2021. Our focus for our project is going to be upland health. So we're looking at juniper removal, forest health, upland livestock water, pasture fencing, weed control, and reseeding. If landowners need any help or assistance selecting projects or prioritizing the different project ideas they have, you can get in touch with the South Fork John Day staff. And then if you're ready to sign up and fill out applications, you can contact myself or Aaron or Hannah. I think that about covers it. Anything else, Aaron?
No, I think that was a good overview. So thank you for taking that time to do that. All right, so we'll just kind of move on to the next slide. And really, this is just kind of a summary of the funding opportunities that we have in the county based on that map. There's a couple other statewide initiatives that aren't on there, and those are available to anybody in the state, including the seasonal high tunnels, the energy audit initiatives, and then the organic transition to organic funding pools. And as Amy said, the application deadline for this year is April 16th. So if anybody has any interest in any of those programs or has questions about that, please let us know. One of our other kind of big conservation stewardship program is the CSP program. We recently found out the application deadlines for the classic sign up are going to be March 26th of 2021. So about a month and a week away from where we're sitting today. So if you have any interest in that program, we can certainly get you an application. We're still waiting for some of the updated enhancements and some of that with that program. But I guess I would just add that with the new farm bill, we went from about $9 billion across the country over 5 years to about half of that in the current farm bill. So the program has become much more competitive and challenging to get funded for, but we're certainly willing to work with you to put in an application and find enhancements that might work on your property. As we talked about yesterday, we kind of had the cropland pasture listening session. Today's the range one. And then tomorrow we'll be meeting at the same time to talk about forested areas in the county. But really this is kind of the part of the meeting or the session where I'm hoping to get some input from the landowners and partners involved. You know, are we working in the right spot? Do we have the right kind of practices? Are we addressing the resource concerns that we've kind of outlined in the past meetings? And I guess yesterday we kind of just went down the list of the participants and they were able to provide some input. So maybe we will approach that again today. And for whatever reason, Jack, your name is always on the top of the on my list. So if you want to maybe give us some quick thoughts, we'll just start from there.
Thanks, Aaron. Aaron, yesterday I was talking about how important grazing management is, and I got to thinking about it today. And I think a missing link in the county are educational opportunities. And we didn't ever talk about that, but there are some really good people out there I think could help address your priority concerns. And as far as grazing management, Tony Malmberg and Genevieve, I see, is on, taught a really good grazing planning class through the Blue Mountain Land Trust. I'm sure he'd be happy to do it for NRCS as well. There'll be more education about how to manage annual grasses and in order to convert them to perennial grasses. Right now, it seems like the whole world the solution is an herbicide, and there ought to be ways that we can learn about grazing management that would tilt things in favor of perennial grass plants. Those are my 2 comments, Aaron. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Next on the list, I think it looks like Shannon on the phone. Would you like to comment?
I agree with Jack on the grazing management. I was excited, though Matt brought out Rejuvra this last summer, and applied some to some problem areas, and I guess, you know, I'm open to what I had Tony come and look at our property too. And so maybe together we can work and overcome those annual grasses that we don't want to have on our property. So anyway, I think you're doing a good job of being open to those types of management ideas.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. Amy, I'm back to you. Do you have anything from the South Forks perspective that you'd like to add, or?
I don't think we have anything to add.
Okay. Thanks, Amy. Carter, how about you?
No, nothing to add, Aaron.
Okay. Thanks, Carter. Let me work down the list here. Genevieve, Blue Mountain Land Trust, any ideas, any thoughts? Are we working where we should be working on the range, or are there other parts of the county?
Yeah, just echoing what Jack said. I think Tony is a great resource. That would be some great education to add. And I'm happy to connect you with Tony if you need. And I'm happy to hear that other folks have been working with him.
Okay, thanks, Genevieve. It looks like there was a request to put the priority resource concerns for the county back on the screen, so that should be back up there to look at. Jeffrey, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I apologize for getting on late. It took me a while to figure out I was trying to link into yesterday's session. But one thing that we're just challenged with right now on our pine forest land is using it for some kind of economic benefit. Local mills, actually the John Day mill seems to be pretty well supplied for pine, and I don't know if there's anything that this group can do to develop maybe some kind of cooperative partnerships for portable sawmills, or creating biochar or something like that that might benefit forest land managers. I'm not sure if anybody's brought that up, or if that's mostly going to be for tomorrow's session, but these look like good priorities to me.
Yeah, I think we'll probably dive into some of the forested issues a little bit more tomorrow, but that's fine to bring it up today for sure. And I'm not sure what NRCS can do to help alleviate some of the mill challenges, but I know there's a group that we kind of regularly meet with, and maybe that's something that we can talk about with them and see if they have any ideas for sure. So anything kind of on the range side that you're seeing, Jeffrey?
I guess one of the things, and I don't know, you guys might have covered this, the CRP program that used to be part of the Farm Bill, is there anything like that where, you know, pasture lands and grazing lands can actually be put into, you know, conservation protections for terms? And
Yeah, so let me scroll back to the FSA slide. So kind of halfway through there's the Conservation Reserve CRP Grasslands Program. And basically that is a program that allows you to still graze the property, but you get kind of a flat rate of $5 per acre. And I guess if anybody has interest in that, I would have you get a hold of Emma Gabriel, and she can kind of get you some more information on on that program. I think the big challenge is some of the other counties' rates are quite a bit higher than the $5. So I think there's been more interest in other locations. But that program is available. If you get enrolled in that program, then basically the CSP and the EQIP and some of our programs, you can't do both. Basically, they consider that double dipping. So that's something else folks need to consider when looking at that for sure. But that program is available, and Emma's got some pretty good information on that. Okay, looks like Jim Devenberg, you're up next. If you want to unmute and give us your thoughts.
Sure, Aaron. The priorities look pretty much right on as far as I'm concerned. Annual grasses are a big issue, but even like you and I've talked, forest health is even a bigger issue. But I think the 5 priorities are in the order I'd put them as far as importance.
Okay.
The only thing I'd like, and again, you and I have talked about this, is that I'm anxious to get some funding for our area. It would appear as though our area is kind of devoid of opportunities with respect to many programs, but hopefully our time will come in the next few years. So that's about all I had.
Okay. Yeah, and this is something that we've kind of talked about at the last local work meetings and talked to folks about is, a lot of times where we kind of go in the county is kind of dictated by the landowner interest. So the folks from the Ritter Collaborative and the land management team had come to our local work group meetings for 5 to 7 years and kind of said, hey, we kind of are building the interest out there and did a landowner assessment and got some additional funds from other folks to kind of help with that. So that's something we always encourage. If you can talk to your neighbors and get more people in an area interested, and then maybe that's where in time we can come and develop a conservation implementation strategy, or maybe the partners put in an RCPP grant for that area. Because that's one thing I did not mention on here is the RCPP priority areas are typically selected by the partner. So we have a little bit of conversations on that, but with Amy working in the South Fork, that's where those boundaries came in. Confederated Tribes kind of had the upper John Day Basin as their priority area. So that's kind of how that kind of happens sometimes, but definitely, we're willing to work where there's interest and willing and able landowners.
Unfortunately for me, Aaron, my neighbors are the Forest Service and Fish and Game, and therein lies the problem. So.
Okay. Well, and I think if you look at this, usually we have pretty big geographic areas, so maybe it's your neighbors across the valley or a little further up. So, yeah, we definitely know, Jim, you're interested in doing some annual grass stuff and some forested stuff. So we'll kind of keep that under consideration.
Aaron, there's a question in the chat box. Are beaver analog dams a practice that NRCS can prioritize?
Okay, so BDAs are an NRCS practice. Those got added in the last couple of years, and that could be something that we prioritize. So I think where I've seen it's been successful is basically NRCS office has some partners that are able to kind of handle the permitting side of BDAs, because there are a few more hoops to jump through to get those installed versus doing work in the uplands. So if there's some partners out there that are really interested in doing those and could help us with kind of that permitting side, and then that could be something that we look at going forward for sure.
One other thing, Aaron, at our Bologna Creek Ranch in northern Grant County, we've done a lot of juniper control that's improved the rangeland up there, but then our neighbors, like I've heard, Forest Service is lagging on controlling junipers on their rangelands that are immediately adjacent. And I was wondering, is NRCS able to engage the Forest Service to prioritize federal lands for doing the required, like NEPAs that are required to do like large juniper control projects and burning and those kinds of things?
Jeff, what forest is that over there that you're talking about?
Umatilla.
Okay. So that's a little bit of the challenge we have in the county is we have a couple of different national forests. And you know, trying to have the time to talk to each one of those and prioritize areas in different parts of the county can be a challenge for sure. But and that may be something you can follow up with Damon on, because the reason that we kind of have that funding up there in the Kaler area is they had worked with the Forest Service and put in a couple of Joint Chiefs proposals a number of years back, and they never got funded. So I think Damon and Lorraine at the time decided, well, let's just start doing some of the work on our side or on the private side. So that's kind of where some of that funding is, with the hopes that the Forest Service would eventually get there. You know, it's just a great challenge. The Forest Service has so much ground, you know, and everybody kind of wants a priority in a different area. So I think if you get enough landowners in that area that want to see some of that work done, then we could talk about that, or that maybe is something that you could talk to the Forest Service directly about and say, hey, we're doing all this work on our side. What can you do on your side?
So at the Snow Mountain property, it's Malheur National Forest, and we've got the same issue. We've done some forest stand improvement, but their property, which actually has old growth adjacent to it also on their lands, is way overstocked and a real fire hazard. So I don't know if there's a way for your office to prioritize maybe any private lands that border any public lands, to ask all the federal partners to make those priorities to actually look at. Is that something that can come out of this planning?
Potentially. There's just, if you kind of look at the county map, I mean, the whole county basically is going to have in certain places private public boundaries, and you know, it would be a challenge to scale that down to all of those. But maybe that's a question for tomorrow. I'm hoping maybe Roy Walker might be on the call tomorrow. He's the one with the Forest Service that we're working currently with for looking at a Joint Chiefs proposal. So yeah, I mean, we can certainly have some of those discussions, but I'm not sure how we would prioritize the whole county, because you know, you're not going to satisfy everyone, because there's just a lot of ground out there.
And also just following up on the Beaver Dam information, I know that you know, Bridge Creek outside of Mitchell there has been one of those intensively monitored watersheds, and they've shown where those beaver analog dams actually can you know, raise the water table and increase water availability. So I guess I would encourage you to maybe, since water availability and water quantity is a real priority throughout the county, is to look at, you know, the beaver dam analogs as a way to actually, you know, increase water availability too. The other thing that I've also been emphasizing, there's a Lower John Day working group that I've been trying to get them to evaluate the creation of more small off-channel reservoirs to increase availability of water in the summer. It's you can still get permits to divert from streams and drainages in the winter from the Water Resources Department. And I think it's a pretty underutilized opportunity from people throughout Eastern Oregon to, create some off-channel reservoirs that could capture that winter water and then maybe utilize it later in the season.
Okay, yeah, that was mentioned yesterday, and I'll add that to the list. And
Yep, Aaron, Matt McGilligan.
yep, go ahead, Matt.
And I had that on my list also is water development for just what that gentleman was talking about, but to help off-stream water development, not just for cattle and livestock, but also to use them for fire ponds. If we in the northern part of the county where I am, there's a big invasion of Medusa head and Bentonata, and there's very little water around to put a fire out. I mean, if it starts, it's going to burn up a lot of acres. But we could position those and build them for dip nets and use them for fire prevention, along with enhancing grazing opportunities for cattle and wildlife.
Okay. And you're talking more of ponds, or?
I'm talking more of ponds, yeah. Yep. So you're catching the seasonal moisture runoff and holding that for better distribution of livestock, wildlife use. But then they're there if you have a fire or your neighbor has a fire, helicopters can come and dip out of.
Okay. Anything else, Matt? You kind of mentioned the annual grasses.
Yeah, those are my two tops, is the annual grasses, and you guys have talked a lot about that, is control of annual grasses, the Bentonata and the Medusa head, whether it's through grazing management, if we can do it that way, that's great, or, through herbicides.
Okay.
Herbicides and reseeding if needed.
Okay.
But I like the idea of a grazing management plan or grazing management school. If we have some studies out there that show that we can be effective, it's way cheaper than using herbicides.
Great. Okay. Well, appreciate you calling in and giving us your input. Kurt, you got any comments out in the IZ country?
Can you hear me, Aaron?
I can. Oh, we lost you. It just seems like you turn the microphone on and then it goes off again. So yeah, you're in the off position. Let me see. Nope, still muted.
Okay, how about this? Does that work?
That sounds good.
You hear me? Aaron, both your office, the Nrcs and FSA, over the last few years have been very, very, very good to us in the county with these priorities and assistance of every kind, not just financial assistance. And we've seen huge improvements like where I'm at. And so I appreciate it very much. I think you're focused on some very good areas. I like the added thoughts that are coming in. That one added thought that is in my mind based on the new administration and where we might be going is something with energy. Energy, as in solar or some of these other programs, have not been cost effective in Oregon because of our rates. But I think I want to look farther down the line. I would like to, we have a lot of energy possibilities around us. That would be one that would interest me. I'm focused on all the others. We're working on it and we're real involved. But so for a new idea, it's energy for me.
Okay. And you're talking energy to go back onto the grid, or energy to run your pivots, or, you know, what kind of?
Our particular place is probably where I've done it before. Of course, it goes back on the grid, but there was one other one, and I don't know anything about this one. I hear the term all the time is about carbon sequestration. It looks to me like there's going to be some income opportunities in some of those areas if we know where to go. So those are just my new ideas. I like all your old focuses. They've been great. We've been working on those now for several years. We need to continue working on them, but those are just new thoughts for me.
Okay. I appreciate the comments, and I do know the kind of under some of Biden's plans, there seems to be some pretty aggressive changes that they're looking at. CRP is one. They're looking at adding a whole lot more acreage into that program for the carbon sequestration, and maybe there's some other incentives out there that will be coming that will be applicable on the rangeland.
Maybe we get paid for our pine forest that way.
Yeah, or the juniper, but then we're cutting all the juniper. So I don't know. Is that a good trade-off? I think I would prefer the cut juniper, but maybe then we just need to make them into landscape timbers,
Yeah.
or have a better market for them or something. So.
Well, that's a good point
We're going to
too
get paid.
there, Aaron, and that's something I've been asking myself about burning all these junipers once we have them piled. Is this group the one that could actually make a priority to create a pilot project that would actually look at maybe a couple acres? What happens to the carbon when you pull those junipers off, put them in a pile and burn them, or compared to if you cut them, mill them, or cut them and make them into biochar? I mean, there are going to be some opportunities, I believe, out there to do that. It'd be nice to maybe create some kind of small research project or beta test to answer some of these questions that are going to start getting asked a lot more.
Yeah, I know there's definitely a lot of interest in a lot of different groups that are kind of working on that. I'm not sure if it's specific to juniper. And maybe that's where like the John Day Partnership or OSU or ARS could come in. You know, we don't have a lot of funds for directly funding research since we're kind of more on the conservation side. So we're kind of trying to apply some of that research. I mean, we do have the Conservation Innovation Grant funding that would be available. But you would probably need to find a partner that has those skills to do that research and analyze those numbers, and basically maybe we pay for that through the CIG process. So if you have any ideas on that, on Jeffrey, on who might be good to look into that, that's something we could certainly talk about.
Well, I know that Oregon State University has done some of the initial like strength tests and stuff on juniper, and so I don't know if anybody's got a good connection there with OSU, but I would say that they would be the first institution I would contact to look into that. But
Okay.
there's going to be opportunities there, no question.
Okay.
Aaron, the other thing that is, Aaron, can you hear me?
Yep.
The other thing that's on my mind before you lose me is, I tried to say it, but the success of some of our programs over the last few years are phenomenal, and they're beautiful, and they're loved by the community and tourists and so on. I wish that somebody could be assigned to document some of the progress and share it up the line. I'm afraid they're not getting to see it enough. I just don't want them to miss the fact that we've been very, very successful and progressive. I'd like to see our story shared, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, we have a pretty good public affairs team, and we've done a couple of success stories in the county, but maybe just not down kind of in your neck of the woods. And maybe working with Amy and the Watershed Council, you know, since we kind of have that new funding down there, if we could kind of maybe highlight the current work that we're doing, and then maybe highlight some of the work that's already been done down there to, as you said, get the word out on the good work that you guys are doing.
You might have already shared it and I missed it too, so sorry.
No, that's a good point. Let's see. So I think, let's see, I got Matt Winnick still on the line. Maybe you want to just give us a little bit of information on some of the annual grass work that you're doing. That's kind of the emerging technology. It might be good to talk to the group about.
Yeah, no, I've worked with a few of the landowners that are here on this Zoom meeting, and we've been working with a new project called product called Rejuver that has came out. We have test plots kind of throughout the county on small scale, and we do have some large scale pilot projects out here. We're seeing anywhere from 3 to 5 years control of annual grasses out of it. It's not a one size fits all or the gold ticket. I'd like to really, support what Jack said and Shannon about the grazing practices. And there's no one size fits all control for annual grasses. It's going to be really landowner management, how they, the grazing practices. Herbicides are going to fit into some parts of their program. Some parts of their program it won't fit. But we're seeing very promising results with Rejuver out there. We're seeing very good control. Cost recovery, anywhere from 2 to 3 years, you're getting your cost that you put out back with grazing, with your forage. In a lot of these instances, we're seeing double the forage come back, going anywhere from 1,200 pounds of forage per acre to 2,400 pounds of forage per acre. So really a lot of these treatments are going to depend on what type of ground you have. Do you have a monoculture? Do we have 50% perennials still there? So it's kind of a, landowner by landowner basis on how we're going after these annual grasses. But I think something like Jack mentioned, getting some type of grazing workshop along with herbicide workshop where we can tailor these treatments, whether grazing practices, whether herbicide treatment in part, to each landowner is going to kind of be our key to success of annual grasses, because we haven't seen anything in years that's really done that great or that's had any type of longevity. So with Rejuver coming out, we're seeing a lot of longevity out of it. So I think it's something that we are definitely putting high on our priority list. We're doing some annual grass treatment this year where we have some funding opportunities out for people to apply, get up to $10,000 worth of treatment of annual grasses. We do have a few other grants that we've put in for that we're hoping we can bring, if everything works out right, we'll bring about $500,000 to the county for annual grass treatment. And I think with the product out and where we can show definite success, I think this is something in the real near next year, 2 years that we're going to be able to secure a lot of funding with, because if we can get a proven product out here and proven way to do this treatment. But it's going to be something where it's going to be a landowner by landowner basis on how we're going after this problem we have.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And I do have, let me scroll to that. I got Matt's contact information down here at the bottom of this slide. If anybody wants his number or email address, I'm sure he'd be more than willing to talk to you more about that. Okay, Nicole, do you have anything on the range side that you want to talk about?
Nothing on the range side. I think you guys had some really great ideas. I'm gonna echo now twice about that grazing management class. We at CTWS also attended that and we loved it. So I think it'd be a great thing to come back to Grant County and do that again. And then I just want to reiterate for the people that were here for the last meeting about our RCPP in Grant County for irrigation efficiency and also the agricultural land easements as well. We have quite a bit of funding for those two sections. And so if you have anyone interested or you yourself are interested, please reach out.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. And it looks like in the chat you said Wahoo Films has been doing some outreach videos, information.
Yeah, so we did contract them to do it, but we found it to be a really great way to get our message out there about a big restoration project we did in Fox Creek. So maybe that's something NRCS could pursue, do a couple of projects with them, depending on funding. But they put out a really great video if anyone's interested in that. I have a link to that, but they put that out, and it's actually going to be in a film festival this fall, I believe. So a good outreach opportunity to get the message out there of what we're doing in the county.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole. And it looks like I got one other person on the phone line that I don't think was on early on in the meeting. Is there anybody else on the phone that would like to provide any input today? Okay, maybe not. Oh,
You
go
do
ahead.
have another question in the chat box. It says, has OWRD allocation of conserved water program been discussed?
I don't think that's been discussed at any of the local work group meetings, and that's not something I'm very familiar with. Jeffrey, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I've been an advocate for this program for a long time, but if you do an irrigation efficiency project in Oregon, if you know how much water you use before you implement the project and how much water you can still effectively irrigate your certified water rights on, the amount of savings you have, 50% of that you can apply to new lands that don't have irrigation rights on them. And 50% of it goes in stream for aquatic health or for your neighbor that has, water rights downstream. And so I've been trying to get OWEB actually to require that everybody who does an irrigation efficiency project that gets any kind of public funding, that the certified water right holder at least gets notified that there is such a program that exists. Not that they would be required to do it, but to let them know that there's an opportunity that they could get more irrigated land if they wanted to go through the application process with the Water Resources Department. And so I think I'd really love to see if NRCS does any irrigation efficiency projects, that you at least take it upon your staff to notify the certified water right holder that there's an opportunity for them to irrigate new lands that don't have irrigation rights on them. And there's also an opportunity, Tony Malberg's organization, the Freshwater Trust, if he still works for them, they actually have access to Columbia Basin Water Transaction Program funds, where this extra water can actually be parked in stream, and the certified water right holder can get payments for leaving that water in stream, their conserved water. So it's a way underutilized program in Oregon. I think it's a very progressive program, and if everybody used it, then maybe we wouldn't have so many junior water right holders that are getting cut off all the time for irrigation. And then we'd have more water in the creeks for a variety of, aquatic health and recreation or whatever. So I'd really love to see the NRCS make that a priority. One of the nice things about that program too is you can actually go back and look 5 years back. If you did an irrigation efficiency project 2 years ago and you had good water use records, the state actually allows you to go back and review that through this allocation of conserved water program to see if there is, documented potential saved water. And if a landowner goes completely, a water right holder goes completely through this process, there's nothing that requires them to do the program. And in fact, they can go through it. They can say they want to test it out for a couple years, and then they can say, well, it's not really working out for me, I don't want to do it. And they're not required to do it. It's got a lot of flexibility in it for a water right holder to really evaluate if it's something that they want to formally do. And the third primary benefit of this allocation of conserved water program is that once you have a set of water set aside that the state has recognized that you've saved and you can apply to new lands, you can move those irrigated lands around without having to go through the formal transfer process with the Water Resources Department. It's just another provision they put in for people that if they go through this process, which it's not easy, and it takes some time to fill the application out and track everything, but once they've recognized that you have saved a portion of some water and you put it on some new lands, all you got to do is send them a letter and say, I'm putting it over here in the back 40 instead of the front 40 now. Because right now, if you want to do that with certified lands, you have to go through a formal water rights transfer process, which takes a minimum of about 8 to 12 months and costs thousands of dollars with the state. So it's a pretty important program and way underutilized in my opinion.
Okay. Well, thanks for the information. It looks like Emma, were you able to join us?
I was able to. Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
We can. I kind of already just kind of briefly kind of talked about your slide, but since you're on, if you want to talk a little bit about that. We did have a question about CRP grasslands earlier.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just run through here really quick, and then I can take questions at the end if anybody has any. But with LFP, we are working our way through those as quickly as possible. We have a register with everybody who has applied on it, so we're getting through those as quickly as possible. Acreage reports, the deadline is July 15th unless you have NAP insurance, then it's in April. CRP grasslands, I know that rate is really low for Grant County. It is based off of NAS data. So I don't know. I think they get that number from surveys and whatnot. So it's important that those get filled out each year, but I can do a little bit more research into that if anybody has more questions on it. When this program first came out, the rates were probably around $20 to $30 on average, I would say. And Harney's dropped to $11 and Grants dropped to $5. And I think in the Columbia Basin, they're like $3 or less. So there's not a ton of interest in a lot of the state due to that. But I can definitely answer any questions that you guys have on that. You are able to hay or graze that acreage, and it's just based off of a plan that Nrcs creates. And to my understanding and the contracts that we currently have, the producer is very involved in that, and a lot of times it's kind of based off of what you're already, how you're managing your herd already. So it does sound too good to be true, but I have not found a catch with that program yet. Moving on to the coronavirus program, we're kind of at a standstill right now with the new administration. They have kind of paused our funds for the CFAP 1 and 2 additional payments, which aren't applicable to livestock producers, but those folks who are eligible, all those funds have been kind of frozen for a little bit now while the coronavirus program is reviewed by the new administration. So hopefully more to come on that and CFAP 3. We did interviews in John Day yesterday for the program technician position, so that's exciting. I'm hoping for a start date within the next month or two, but we're excited to have somebody that will be there full time. They will train in the office here in Hines for the first 3 to 6 months, and will continue to be there on Tuesdays until they are fully trained and then in that office full time. But I think I've pretty much signed up going to John Day every Tuesday for the rest of my life. So I've enjoyed getting to meet everybody. If you have any questions, I can take them now, or you can email me at my email there. I think that's all I've got, Aaron.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Any questions for Emma?
Can you
Yeah,
double
yeah.
up? Yeah. Aaron, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
Can you hear me? This is Kurt. Can you double up
Hi, Kurt.
the CRP grassland? Hi, Emma. How are you? Can you double up the CRP grasslands over top ESP?
You can't.
The
No,
both
you
programs?
cannot.
And
Nope.
CSP usually is a better paying. Repeat that.
You can't double up. That is correct. And I'm not sure what the rates are like for CSP, so maybe Aaron can help out on that.
Well, so the big difference with the grasslands is that can be a 10 or 15-year contract, where CSP is just 5-year contracts. And we have a cap of $200,000 per 5-year contract. And I guess depending on how many acres you have for the grassland program, some guys may choose to have that payment for a longer period than just the 5 years, and that's why some people like the grasslands program over CSP.
Okay, thank you.
So Emma, I have a question regarding CRP grasslands. Has there been any discussion at FSA about carbon sequestering and how that might fold into that CRP grasslands program?
No, actually, we have not had anything like that come out for our programs right now. But I do suspect we might see programs like that come out in the future. So I'll definitely keep you guys posted. And we are working on combining our Gov Delivery Bulletin with Grant County instead of them still with Baker County. So that's kind of our prime source in getting information to you guys. So if we do hear anything about that, we'll definitely get that in the bulletin. And I think I think in March or April is when we'll finally be combined in that software so that you guys get the same information that we're pushing out to Harney County. But I do try to put articles in the newspaper of upcoming programs and deadlines and whatnot. But I will definitely let everybody know of what new programs we have.
All right, thanks, Emma. Looks like Richard, you were able to join us. We're kind of getting to the end here, but we're kind of looking at rangelands today for the land use. Do you have any thing out in IZ that you want to talk about? Are we kind of working on the resource concerns that we need to be, or do you have other ideas of what we could be working on out there that you'd like to see? Looks like we're still on mute there, Richard.
There we go. How's that?
Perfect.
Good to see everybody. Nice to be on board. And it's more of a opportunity for me to see what you folks are involved in across the district, and to see where we might fit in terms of, as you know, we've got the RCPP project, which we're going to be applying for. And so other than that, it's an informational gathering opportunity for me.
Okay, well, thanks for joining. We are kind of getting to the end. I did record this, and I will probably post that on our website, and I'll send that out. So if you want to kind of listen in and get some information from there, that might be another opportunity. But just wanted to thank everybody for participating today and providing your input. Very helpful. Got some good ideas on some things maybe we can do a little bit differently on the educational side of things. Trying to incorporate in some of those grazing with annual grasses, I think would definitely be beneficial. We can certainly look at BDAs going forward. We just kind of need to find somebody else that's willing to help out with some of the permitting and some of those other challenges of getting that stuff taken care of. And then the water storage, conversation on the ponds or the fire. That's been mentioned a number of times, kind of going around. So that's something we'll kind of look at and maybe come up with some ideas on what we could do to help folks with that one, because I think that, you know, would have benefits for fighting fires, for the livestock, for the wildlife. I think there's a lot of positives that would come out of that. I guess I will open it up for any last comments, and if not, we can kind of end it here, and I'll just hang out on the line here for another few minutes if there are. But I appreciate everybody taking the time today, and then just a reminder, tomorrow we'll have another listening session on forested topics.
What time will that start tomorrow, Aaron?
It starts at 1 p.m. Pacific
Okay.
time.
Yeah, sorry I was late here. I was on a internet buying bulls.
Oh, no problem.
I'll try to be on at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Perfect.
Aaron, just regarding the small reservoirs, this is something I've advocated for in the lower basin too, is just maybe working with the Water Resources Department to have a workshop of some kind where landowners can actually come in and sit down with Oregon Water Resources Department staff and fill out a small reservoir application. Because one of the other challenges we had up in at Bologna Creek too, when we had that last drought declaration, you guys had funds set aside specifically for small reservoir work, but when we came out to visit, by the time you get the permitting in place for it, you know, the drought's over. So even if people wanted to come in and create applications for reservoirs, they're not required to build them in the first 5 years. If they have that permit in hand, then if you guys get emergency drought money of some sort specifically for small reservoirs, then the landowners will have those permits in their pocket and can actually move forward with the project.
Okay. Yeah, that might be a possibility. I'll have to talk to our basin engineer. He's not a big fan of putting in ponds, and there's pluses and minuses with that. But there are some other options. A lot of the stock tanks that we put in, or cisterns, we'll put on a kind of a fire adapter, or in Malheur County they put in, you know, $20,000-$30,000 troughs using some of the old basically grain bin silos, and they concrete those in. So there may be some other solutions that we can come up with that kind of meet everybody's goals and objectives for that. But thank you for the input on kind of those parts of it. Is there anybody else that had a last statement or idea?
Aaron, will you be able to provide an email with the discussion that I missed in the former hour at all? Do you have anybody taking minutes or of the discussion?
Yeah, Hannah's taken some notes, and what I'm hoping is we're recording this Zoom session, and then our public affairs can convert that to a YouTube video, and then I'll have that posted, or I can send that out to everybody that participated today, and that would give you an opportunity to just kind of rewatch it or kind of read the minutes, or it's kind of what I'm thinking.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Well, all right. If there's nothing else, I appreciate everybody taking the time today and providing your input. And hopefully next year we can have our meeting back in person. But it's kind of hard to say how things are going to go. So appreciate everybody logging into the Zoom meeting today.